Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NR 2021 NASCAR Cup Series season here on the channel. Today, the first elimination race of the playoffs here, the round of 16 set to conclude tonight from Bristol, where 4 drivers will be eliminated at the end of 300 laps. Stage 1 and 2, both 70 laps apiece, and Stage 3, 160 laps. Excited for this playoff battle here tonight. Joined with me, we have JayCook as usual. Jay, it's been an incredible season. It's been a great first round of the playoffs. A lot of clean racing. It hasn't been any crash fest, surprisingly, which we thought we were going to have in Richmond. This sets us up for this playoff elimination race at Bristol, where we haven't been to this version of a paved Bristol at all in NR 2003. So it's kind of hard for us to predict what to expect tonight. But what do you think we're going to see here tonight from Bristol?
I think we might finally see that crash fest that we've been expecting out of this first round, with all three of them, two of them being short tracks and the other one being Darlington, where we also saw some wrecks earlier this season. So I think that tonight might turn into a kind of a crash fest. These drivers are going to be driving desperate, especially some of the ones around the cut line, like Chastain, Suarez, Harvick, Bubba Wallace, Joey Logano. So we're going to have some guys probably driving desperate tonight. They want to get those stage points. They want to get ultimately the win at the end of the race. And also, guys, just even if you are comfortable in points, you still want to get more playoff points with a stage win or with a race win. So I think we're going to see some stuff happen tonight. I think we could see some wrecks. I think we could see a lot of passing. And I hope that we see a very good race overall. The only thing that I'm worried about is how many cars are going to have on the lead lap towards the end of this race.
Ready to get going. They don't waste any time here in Bristol. We're getting ready to go green this time by Eric Almirola on pole alongside Denny Hamlin. Joey Logano, third place. Keep an eye on him. He's currently the last driver in, but he's currently in tie with Chastain, 0 points above the cut line. So, Jay, as they get ready to go green, looking at that playoff grid, do you see Logano or Chastain? If we're looking at comparing them to, who do you think has the best opportunity to be that last guy in between those guys?
I think Logano has the best opportunity in my opinion, but this is also a track that I think suits Chastain. So I think that right now he's starting further back in the field, but I think that Chastain also has a good chance tonight to come up here and race Logano, maybe race his way in. But I think Logano has the better chance.
70 laps here in stage one. Plenty of time for just a lot of drama to happen and unfold at this track. Like we said, we haven't actually come here to Bristol at all other than the dirt version in NR 2003 so far. So we aren't fully sure what to expect. We have done some testing, of course, to get ourselves a good idea of a good racing AI. So hopefully we have got it right. William Byron there on the inside in 5th place. He comes into tonight 12 points above the cut line. But Jay, I mean, we look at the playoff grid. I mean, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, by the way, as well as Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott all locked in. Elliott, Blaney, they have both won races in the playoffs. Larson just locked in on points. But we look at Keselowski, the first guy that's not locked in, 37 above the cut line. There's, in reality, Jay, nobody that's really safe at this point here coming into tonight.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Keselowski, he was just 3 points shy of being able to have the opportunity to lock himself in tonight. So he will not be able to lock himself in. Nobody will be able to lock themselves in. Anyone can have a bad race and wind up finding themselves out if someone else behind them has a fantastic race. So at the moment, no one is comfortable, and anything can change. No matter how you look at these points and think, I might be comfortable or I might be screwed. With these two stages, and then with how the point system is, anything can change here at any moment. This is the world's fastest half mile. These guys are flying around this track for how short of a track it is. Mistakes can happen, wrecks can happen at any time. So these guys really have to drive with their heads and make sure that they still hang around for stage points and hang around for the end of this race.
And of course, in between stages, we will be giving live playoff updates on what is going on at the end of stage one as well as stage two. And then we'll try to keep you updated the best we can throughout stage three when we have a good insight on the situation. Now, as well, we've done some testing from what it looks like, Jay. It's going to be absolutely crucial to stay on the lead lap, as these guys aren't going to be, or it's not going to be long until the leaders are running down lap traffic. And tonight, staying on the lead lap could be the difference if you're making it into the next round or not, especially if you're a guy like Chastain or Bubba Wallace is already in the back half of the pack along with Daniel Suarez.
Yeah, normally at short tracks, we always come here and there's the distance between yourself and the leader is a lot shorter, but it usually doesn't matter that much at a place like Martinsville or New Hampshire, but it matters here at Bristol because of how fast these guys are going. Even though this is a short track, these leaders are hauling, and it's only a small distance. So you can be in 15th place, and the leader is only 10 seconds behind you. And so in reality, you don't have a lot of separation between you and the leader here. And you can fall behind really quickly, and especially with pit stops as well. If you get an untimely pit stop and a caution falls, or if you have maybe a 2 or 3 second slower pit stop than usual, you can find yourself going a lap down or close to going a lap down. So these guys have to be on it tonight. and really make sure that there is no mistakes. So many things can go wrong here at Bristol. These guys have to have a clean night.
Now, do you think it's going to be tough to pass tonight? I mean, right now we're seeing everybody run that inside line. You see the grip strip down there. I feel like passing up top is going to be potentially impossible here tonight. So do you think that it's going to be taking someone to get physical to even get anywhere, maybe once you get up inside the top 10 here tonight?
I could see that being a possibility. It is very possible that we will see this track be one groove the entire night. I think we could see some moves happen on the outside depending on how good the car is. Let's say like Kevin Harvick trying to pass Larson here. If his car, if he thinks is really good, maybe he can get past him on the outside just with that run that he's able to get running up there. So we might be able to see that Highland come in maybe on the longer runs as well, like we've seen in real life before. But yeah, they do the grip strip to promote one lane racing, so that way we have some bump and run moves, and back to kind of the old Bristol where it was always having to bump somebody out of the way to pass them and everything. And that's what we're going to see here tonight, I think. But I think we will see some people having to get physical, especially towards the end of this race, and especially those guys desperate to get any and every point possible. And that, again, could also lead to some wrecks as well.
Kevin Harvick, the only driver currently below the cutoff line that is in the top 10. He comes into tonight 18 points below the cut line. So as of right now, doing the best he can to make up some ground. And this is a big pass on Kyle Larson if he can complete that. Right now, he's trying to beat drivers like Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr., William Byron to get into this next round. Well, unfortunately, all of those three drivers I just mentioned, well, they are right there in front of him. So Harvick doing what he needs to be doing, running up inside the top 10 to get stage points, but he's not beating the drivers he needs to be beating. So got to be a little bit frustrating for the 2021 Daytona 500 winner, where he went back-to-back, won the Daytona 500, won the Daytona Road Course the next week, and then has just had a miserable season ever since then. And now here he is in the first round looking at potential elimination. Jay, I don't really think it's surprising. I think we both kind of expected Harvick. He's had a miserable season after the first two races, and we wouldn't really be surprised to see him going out this early with the way he's been running for the majority of the year.
Yeah, it would not surprise me at all, honestly, to see him get eliminated in this round. He really has struggled mightily since he got those two wins. He's had some races where he looks better, but he has not put up any kind of consistent performance at all. Race after race, he's ran top 5, ran towards the lead, ran really good. He's just struggled. He got those two wins, and he has struggled ever since. So I think that it is not unsurprising. Like I agree with you, like you said, to see him in this position that he's in. But we're here at Bristol, a track that he is decent at, and so I think that we can see him maybe do something tonight. He's currently running, or certainly running where he needs to. He's just not beating the guys that he needs to beat. He's running in a good position, and anybody that he needs to be ahead of is ahead of him.
Not a whole lot going on right here so far in stage one. Everybody just running on the inside, just kind of maintaining their gaps. So what we're going to do here on lap 24 of Bristol Motor Speedway is we're going to go for a quick break and bring it to the end of stage one when we return. Back from Bristol Motor Speedway, lap traffic coming into effect here in the closing laps, just under 25 laps to go. Already in stage one, Hamlin right on the back of Almirola, who's been struggling to get past the 66 of Timmy Hill. During the break, he's been stuck behind him for close to 10 laps already at this point. And Jay, we're seeing, surprisingly, in our testing, we saw a lot of cars going a lap down, so I'm surprised to see Almirola have such a tough time passing the 66 car. And at this point, it looks like I think his only option is going to be to move that 66 car.
Yeah, it certainly does seem like it. He's having an incredibly rough time, and he's looked like that a couple times. He's almost gotten underneath that 66 car. He's just not been able to do it, and what it's done is it's brought almost this entire top 10 to the back of Almirola, and they are all almost together now. And it's just going to keep bringing cars closer and closer with how much he's struggling behind that 66. And we're going to have moments like this where we see Logano look for a moment on Truex, but just not able to do anything, as Kyle Larson might make the pass here on Byron. Let's see if Byron gets the run on the outside. He does, so he's going to stay there. And what this is going to do is maybe start creating some chaos as well, like there with Harvick. A little bit of contact with Larson. Now he's going to lose the spot to Kyle Busch, maybe Ryan Blaney, and run on the outside. Never mind.
It's fascinating.
This is certainly not the type of racing I was expecting. We have these guys all pretty much coming together now, and it's just going to create chaos. I think this might be how we get cautions tonight, Gary.
Yes, absolutely, but I'm surprised to see everyone being so cautious and scared to give up the inside when Kevin Harvick's proving you can definitely make that outside work right there. He just fought off Kyle Busch, stayed clear, but Kyle's going to fight back to the inside. But clearly, you can make that top line work, which is almost a bit surprising, you would think, Jay, to see that the 10 of Almirola is just staying on the inside behind Timmy Hill. And I mean, if everyone does that behind him, he's just going to be able to hold on to the stage victory that way.
Yeah, I think that even if that outside lane weren't being proved there by Harvick to be fine, I think that Almirola can get can make it work anyways, just because of how fast he is compared to that 66. And I mean, you can obviously see now how slow Timmy Hill is compared to everybody else inside and around the top 10, because the entirety of the top 10 and almost the top 15 is caught up and is now in one big giant train around this track. As we see there, Martin Truex having troubles again with Joey Logano. I think this is really just going to start creating bottlenecks. Is now we're getting a little bit of separation between Denny Hamlin and Almirola. Hamlin sliding into the corner. Maybe he's going to lose a spot to Truex here, but we also know that outside lane can work.
Oh, baby. A little bit close right there into turns 3, as they're going to be side by side here on the exit of turns 4. Hamlin stays clear for the time being, but here comes Truex to the inside. Now we're getting some side by side action. Harvick looking up the inside of Kyle Larson. Blaney trying to make a pass on Kyle Busch, but we're seeing that outside prevail consistently here right now, as you can see Almirola still behind Timmy Hill, just refusing to make a move, which is very surprising. But now we're still seeing a side-by-side battle here between Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. Now, as Hamlin's been a bit of a surprise so far in this round of the playoffs after some troubles early on. He only is 23 points above the cut line coming into tonight. So, Jay, I mean, at the same time, Hamlin can't take too many risks and get himself a loss of points. But right now, I mean, he seems to be holding on okay. But like I said, that team, he really cannot take a whole lot of risks tonight.
Yeah, he really can. He's got to kind of stay where he is, and it looks like he's going to be able to get that spot back off of Truex. It seems like it takes 5 or so laps fighting on that outside, and you eventually just get back in front of that car enough to where you can nose back down in front of him. But we are starting to see a bit of a second lane form here. We've now got Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, and then Chase Briscoe there on the outside trying to fight each other and all battle towards the back end of the top 10 here. And now we have Brad Keselowski jumping up there as well. So I think some of these guys are maybe learning that the outside can work and seeing what they can do to try and make up some positions while they're stuck in this train.
Just 10 laps to go, coming to 9 to go here as they cross the line in stage 1. Almirola still just sitting behind that number 66 of Timmy Hill. And, you know, it's almost what we'd like to see because it allows us to have more cars on the lead lap. But here we go. Almirola finally making a move. But even Timmy Hill, he's able to fight pretty well on the outside, but I don't think he's going to have enough there for Eric Almirola, who's going to go by out of turns 2. They're still going to be side by side. Hill, of course, has to fight as hard as he can to remain on the lead lap. An interesting move right here. Oh, this could get a little bit dicey. They might be 3 wide just about on the exit of the corner. Thank goodness they got that settled out right there. As Jay, I definitely don't think it'd be smart for a guy like Logano and Truex to get themselves 3 wide here in Bristol early on.
Yeah, they need to fight for stage points right now. They don't need to lose out due to a crash and be out for the rest of this race early on, especially Logano, who's tied for that cut line, and then Truex is just above it. They need to just realize here that 1 or 2 spots is not going to be that big of a deal. It'd be a lot less worse than getting involved in a crash and finding themselves out of this race early. So I think Logano is going to be able to get by on the bottom here, and Truex, unfortunately, he may lose more than just 1 or 2 spots if this race or if this stage is not in quick.
I don't even know what he can do at this point other than try and force it 3 wide. Kyle Larson there up top. And, I think Truex is going to look to take a 3 wide. Very risky there from the 19 Joe Gibbs veteran, but he is trying to make it work to the best of his abilities here. It could get a little bit dicey. There's some contact I saw with William Byron into turns 3 as there's coming to 3 laps to go in the stage. Truex is hoping they can bring it home at this point as, it gets very dicey down into the corner here. Tremendous racing between these drivers. Truex gets clear somehow. A great drive from him and clear the 24 of William Byron, and he's going to hold on to the 4th position now as Hamlin still in the back of Almirola with just 2 laps to go. And now we're going to see Logano maybe take a risk here, jump up to the outside. Jay, we know Logano coming to the white flag in the stage needs every point he can get right here to make it into the next round.
That was a full sin there on Denny Hamlin as well, showing to get out of my way. I need this position, but Denny Hamlin's going to fight back on the outside. We've seen it happen time and time again. Logano's able to send it into the corner, but Denny Hamlin fights off the exit of the corner, and Hamlin is going to keep his position over Joey Logano.
Through turns 3 and 4 for the final time, Eric Almirola will come through to win stage 1. Hamlin holds off Logano for 2nd place. What a charge there from the Penske driver as well. He's going to gain 8 points, and that's going to be 8 key points, very important points for Logano now as we look for potential stack-ups. Looks like everybody's going to be okay with no contact. They will be coming into the pit lane immediately here at the end of this first stage, but definitely got a little bit more exciting at the end there once that lap traffic got up into the mix. So Eric Almirola, your stage 1 winner. Like I said, Logano and Truex both picking up some very important points. points. Harvick did get past Kyle Larson there for 6th place, so he picked up 5 points over Larson, who got 4. Kyle Busch there and Alex Bowman, 2 non-playoff drivers, rounding out the top 10. But Jay, we saw some big gains right there for both Logano, Truex, as well as Kevin Harvick. But for Harvick, he still isn't going to gain a lot because he needs to be looking at beating both Logano and Truex tonight.
Yeah, and Harvick also being 18 points out, gaining a minuscule amount there is not going to be good enough for him. He has to virtually win these stages and then have the other drivers around the cutoff line not get any stage points at all. So for Harvick, still going to be in a hole heading into the second stage here. And I think if you're Harvick right now, you're just frustrated because you don't know what else you can do. You fought so hard in that stage. You had to battle the drivers that came up from behind eventually once they got stuck behind on the lap cars. And he also probably felt like he was driving his heart out and didn't gain anything. In fact, he probably lost a couple of points still. So for Harvick, still got a lot of work to do.
And we're going to see who wins the race out of the pit lane. Here comes Aric Almirola, who has the first pit stall on the backside of the track. He actually wins it off. Hamlin second, so not much of a grid change right there. As Kyle Larson, though, does lose a few positions. But we are going to go for a break before Stage 2 gets underway, and we're going to get the playoff update calculated and figure it out so you guys have an idea what's going on for the start of the second stage here from Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll be right back. Back from Bristol Motor Speedway, getting ready to go green for the start of Stage 2. Stage 1 has concluded, of course, and we have a live playoff update. Jay and I went over the finishing order, the calculations, and Jay, you have an update to give to us here on the current playoff situation here for the start of Stage 2.
Keselowski, as you see on your screen, Keselowski is now still 37 above. Almirola is 36 above. Hamlin 32. Custer 25 above. Kurt Busch 18 above. Byron 18 above. DiBenedetto 15 above. Truex 13 above. Logano now 8 above. Chastain is now 8 out. Harvick is 21 out. Suarez is 24 out, and Bubba Wallace is 29 out. So barring some massive incident happening here, we can already say that Harvick and Suarez and Bubba Wallace have a huge hole to climb out of, and it's going to be virtually impossible without winning this race.
And if Stage 1 was an indicator for how this race is going to go, I don't think the hopes for Suarez or Bubba Wallace or Harvick are very good right now, Jay. I mean, Chastain still has the potential if something, maybe a mechanical fault goes wrong for somebody, but other than that, the other bottom three, I think we both can agree they're going to have to rely on a crash to happen, which, as of right now, doesn't look like we can see a big crash tonight in Bristol.
And Chastain, the one thing he could take advantage of is Kurt Busch, I notice, is back there and one of the furthest drivers back in the playoff field at the moment, but Chastain is not that far up ahead of him. And Chastain would need Kurt Busch to fall pretty far down the order, while Chastain goes pretty far up the order, with Kurt Busch being, I think, 18 above that I just said. Yes, he's 18 above, so it would take quite a bit of a swing there for Kurt Busch to wind up slipping down behind Ross Chastain.
Seeing really tremendous speed out of that number 10 of Aric Almirola right now, already half a second gap on Hamlin at the start of that last lap. So he is looking very strong, at least on the short run. Now when he gets to lap traffic, it might be a bit of a different story like what we saw in that first and opening stage. But you know what we haven't done tonight so far here in Bristol, we are going to do right now is we are going to get amped for the first time from Bristol Motor Speedway. Back from the amped here in Bristol, you see all single file pretty much right now. A little bit further back, we did see Kurt Busch, who's in a side-by-side battle here. He still is, actually, with the number 14 of Chase Briscoe. Really seeing that number 1 of Kurt Busch struggle here early on. Now as he's as well seeing the 41 of Cole Custer struggle in tonight's event now. I mean, Jay, as well for Chastain, Custer's struggles could be a potential opportunity, but fortunately for Custer, he ran so well in Darlington that he has quite a buffer coming into tonight.
Yeah, he does have a really nice buffer coming in, and right now he is struggling. But luckily for him, uh, anyone else that could potentially beat him is either not gaining that many points or they're not that far ahead of him. And so for Custer, he should be all right for the rest of this race as long as he doesn't get caught up in a wreck and winds up DNFing. Because at the moment, there's not a lot of separation between anybody in this playoff field. It's pretty much all of them right there together.
A fascinating race so far it has been. You see Kyle Busch looking up the inside of Chase Elliott in that A-Shock Energy Chevrolet Camaro. Elliott, who won the first race of the playoffs at Darlington, did not do so well in Richmond. Struggled all night long, and seeing him struggle a bit tonight again as he runs in the 13th position at the moment now, just behind that number 3 Richard Childress Racing driver of Austin, Dylan Kozlowski there, currently just outside of the top 10 in his final season with this Penske team before he moves over to Roush Fenway Racing next season to drive the number 6 car. Speaking of team news, we just got word this week that Starcom Racing is planning to cease operations and shut down at the end of this season. Jay, I mean, we never really saw a lot of success from that team. Maybe not much of a surprise to see them shutting down here, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, it's unfortunate to see teams leaving the sport. But I mean, we have so many new teams coming in at the same time, so it's not like it's a big hit or anything. But I guess we can both agree, probably not a very surprising thing to see a team like Starcom exit the sport at the end of this year.
Yeah, it's not entirely surprising to see it happen, and it is unfortunate that we have another team closing down. But it's, you know, like you mentioned, it's not like we don't have teams coming into the sport currently at the moment. We have GMS coming into the Cup Series next season. Colleague is going to be full-time. 23XI is expanding. Trackhouse is expanding. So there's still lots of new teams and lots of new things going on in the Cup Series. It's just always unfortunate to lose a team no matter what, because it's just it just makes it that much more competitive when there is other teams trying to get into the field. And even though there is the charter system, there's still those open spots. And there is that competitiveness still with those open spots. But Starcom, they had a good try and a good run with the Cup Series. Just unfortunately never really worked out for them.
Still seeing some side-by-side action between Suarez as well as Cole Custer, but Suarez looks clear for the moment now, as we're throughout the majority of the field, though, seeing a lot of single-file racing once again. Already just 40 laps to go in stage 2, and as the leaders are slowly closing in on lap traffic, we are going to go for yet another quick break here from Bristol Motor Speedway and be back to bring you to the end of the second stage. Back from Bristol, 20 laps to go in stage 2. Eric Almirola working his way through lap traffic, and he's actually passing cars this time. He's past the 66 of Timmy Hill. He's now past the 17 of Chris Buescher, is working on passing the 17 of Chris Buescher, who's able to put up a fight. Surprising to see the 17 run so awful. He is 2 laps down now, by the way. He got trapped a lap down on the pit lane earlier, but was not looking very strong beforehand anyways now, as Denny Hamlin has to work his way through lap traffic here with that 66 of Timmy Hill just in front of him, as Almirola still struggling to even get clear of that 17. Looks like he has completed the pass, though, right there down the back straightaway into turns 3. So now, Jay, I mean, Almirola, of course, had a gap over Hamlin, but now he's got a couple cars in between the two of them, and with how hard it seems to be to pass here tonight, I think that's got to make Almirola really comfortable here, looking at the end of the stage.
Yeah, and Almirola seems to be the only one that's able to get through them as well. So we'll have to watch and see how easily Denny Hamlin and the rest of this pack here is able to get past these lap cars. But I think as they start getting deeper and as we maybe get the 3rd or 4th, maybe 5th guy run up here on these lap cars, we might see some real calamity start happening if these guys maybe go 2 and 3 wide as they're trying to get through them. We saw that earlier in stage 1. I have a feeling we might see a bit more of that this time around with 20 or so laps left in this stage, and we've already got some lap cars being passed.
Really does seem like the racing product improves drastically once lap traffic gets into the mix. Usually it makes it worse, but it's doing the opposite here tonight. Kyle Larson falling down the order a little bit, trying to hold on to that final, or that 9th spot over Matt DiBenedetto in that number 21 car here. As you're seeing, Almirola now kind of stuck behind the number 7 of Corey LaJoie, but he doesn't even have to worry about passing anybody right now, unless Hamlin, of course, finds a way to get past some lap traffic here, as he might be under attack from Joey Logano on the exit of turn 2. Not enough right there. Kyle Larson still under attack from Matt DiBenedetto now, as DiBenedetto is currently in that 10th and final stage point spot. So, Jay, right now, DiBenedetto having a strong night, doing what he needs to be doing as well here to make it into that next round.
Yeah, and while he didn't score any points in stage 1, he didn't really lose any ground either. This playoff field is so close to each other. All 16 of these drivers virtually right there together, nose to tail. So it's kind of hard to gain or lose anything at the moment, even if you are down towards the bottom of the order, because you only lose maybe eight or so points because the guy you need to beat is, only 8 spots above you. So for Matt DiBenedetto, this is certainly good for him, and it's good for a lot of those other drivers as well that are maybe 13 points, 15 points, 18 points now above that cut line. They're not seeing a whole lot of separation, so they don't have to worry too much.
Almirola passing another driver there of Corey LaJoie is going to continue, though, to fight on the outside. 9 laps to go in stage 2. Hamlin has Logano right on his back bumper, but Logano can't quite do anything with Hamlin, and Hamlin can't quite do anything with Timmy Hill in the number 66 here as he continues to ride behind him and watch Almirola drive away. Kyle Larson looks like, you see Hamlin now up the inside of the 66, but Kyle Larson has gotten clear of the 21 of DiBenedetto, and now Keselowski goes up to the top line there down the back straightaway. Byron looking to the inside of Martin Truex Jr. As you're seeing Almirola, though, just in command here now with the final 7 laps of stage 2 underway. Jay, what is it going to take for a guy like Denny Hamlin, or anyone for that matter, to beat that 10 of Almirola tonight?
Honestly, I think it might take a late caution and then a bump and run. Almirola seems like he has an extremely strong car, and when he has the advantage of getting to the lap cars and getting through a few before the guys behind him even catch up, that puts him at a huge advantage over somebody like Denny Hamlin, who has to then struggle for the next 7 or 8 laps to even get around 1, and then in that time Almirola's put another couple in between him and Denny Hamlin. So at the moment, I think it's looking to me like Almirola has a very good car. He's able to kind of cut through the lap cars better than anyone else, and at the end of this race, he's going to have to hope for no caution.
Having our weekly frame drop moment here in NR 2003. We're just going to try our best to bear through it, as there's only a few laps to go in stage 2, and it should resolve itself here within the next minute or so. Almirola trying to make a move up the inside of the 37 of Ryan Preece there, right on his quarter panel as they came through out of turns 4 and 10 car, making great progress against this lap traffic. Now, as you see, Hamlin, Logano there, 2nd and 3rd place there on the inside. Byron, but look at all this side-by-side action here in the top 10 all of a sudden. That's what I'm saying. This lap traffic has really improved the racing product here in Bristol tonight. But Hamlin's having a terrible time trying to pass that number 66 of Timmy Hill. As you see, he just can't quite pull it off now as Truex and Byron continue to fight it out. But Jay, I'm looking at stage 3. I think that one, we're going to be in for a wild one, because there's going to be a lot of lap traffic in the mix for that one if it goes green for a long period of time. And I can really see the craziness amping up there.
Yeah, we could also really see a gap form between Almirola and Hamlin as well, if Hamlin is going to struggle this much. Almirola able to make easy work of these guys once he's able to get to the inside of them, but Denny Hamlin still cannot get past Timmy Hill. And I think that's showing for me at the moment how actually good that outside line is. It's just these drivers for some reason refuse to use it, but once they start doing it, they're able to either keep their position or maybe make a pass doing so. So maybe we'll see them start to creep up to that outside line before they even reach lap cars. We might see some passing get done before then. But stage 3 is setting up to be really interesting here. We could also, I think, maybe start seeing some calamity.
Stage 2.
As we just got
there. We got problems. Denny Hamlin's got damage. Is the 24 going to get a piece of it? No. The 16 got turned around. We're going to have to get a replay of how that exactly went down. Hamlin picked up a little bit of front end damage. Thank goodness, that could have been a lot worse than it actually was. It looks like it was just one car of Hamlin picking up a little bit of front end damage now, as like I said, we're going to get a look at exactly what just happened all of a sudden, as someone clearly ran into the back of the 16 to originally turn him around. But of course, pit stops coming here already, and look at the gap Almirola has. First of all, Jay, for him, no reason to speed or anything. The pit crew has all the time in the world to get this pit stop done. So this is easy win off of the pit lane for the 10 team.
They could have a 20-second pit stop and he'd still be first off pit road. They got a huge gap out of that. The gap was already going to be kind of big still, even if Denny Hamlin didn't get slowed down. But with that slowdown from having to avoid Casgrala, Hamlin and the rest of this field has got put way behind him, and Hamlin's also going to have to take some damage repair. So the gap for Almirola is even larger to go all the way back to Joey Logano.
And now Hamlin has a decent gap over the 22 of Logano, so he might be able to get that damage repaired in time before he even loses a position. We'll have to wait and see, of course, what happens there. You already see Eric Almirola is going to come through and win the race out of the pit lane. Could even put a few drivers a lap down, potentially. And Hamlin's actually electing not to repair that damage. Interesting call by that Joe Gibbs Racing team. They must not think it's going to affect them too much here from Bristol Motor Speedway there. As you're seeing, quite a few drivers I think are going to end up potentially a lap down, maybe a good 4 or 5 more. So yeah, it looks like about 31st on down is a lap down. But we're going to go for a quick break at the end of the second stage, calculate the points, get you guys an idea of what it's looking like for the start of the third and final stage here from Bristol Motor Speedway. Back from Bristol Motor Speedway with a quick look at what happened to the 16 of Casgrala under caution. The 10, the leader of Almirola right there, actually turns the 16 around. I mean, just kind of squeezed up into the 10. The 10 was coming at a lot of speed. Just an overall unfortunate scenario where Hamlin, of course, got some damage that they elected, surprisingly, to not repair on the pit lane as we're ready for the start of this third and final stage. There you see the live scene. Almirola leading the way, going green this time by, of course, during the stage break. Jay calculated the playoff standings. Jay, what are we looking at here going into this third and final stage in terms of everybody fighting their way into the playoffs?
Well, once again on your screen, you see the playoff standings. Eric Almirola and Denny Hamlin have now locked themselves in. They're 46 and 41 points above, respectively. Brad Keselowski is 37 points above. Cole Custer, 25. Byron is 25 points above. Martin Truex Jr. is 19 points above. Kurt Busch, 18 points above. Matt DiBenedetto and Joey Logano are tied at 16 above. And then Ross Chastain is now 16 out. Harvick is 24 out. Daniel Suarez, 32 out. And Bubba Wallace, 37 out. So once again, for Harvick, Suarez, and Bubba Wallace, barring some massive change in this race, they're looking like they're going to have to win this race in order to get in. Ross Chastain is almost to that point. But Joey Logano, once again, can easily slip his way down the order or can wreck, and any one of these guys can find their way in if we start having a bunch of wrecks.
Definitely going to need some assistance for Ross Chastain and everybody below the cut line here tonight in this final stage, which is now underway here as we see some side-by-side action in the back, as well as, I don't know how it happened, but we actually had some lap cars up here in the mix, like the 16 of Casgrala, who's in front of Kyle Busch, as well as a 53 and a 78, so not sure exactly how that worked, but they are in the mix anyways. But the first part of this third and final stage, we probably expect it to be calm, but Jay, like we said, in stage 2, stage 1, when the leaders were running down lap traffic, we saw how the racing really spiced up with drivers trying to navigate their way through the traffic. So we could be looking at half of this whole stage here. I mean, the final 100 laps just in lap traffic. That could really present an opportunity that maybe Ross Chastain and anyone below the cut line needs of a potential big accident, wiping out maybe a guy like Joey Logano or Martin Truex Jr., who are currently only the last guys in the playoffs at the moment.
You know, you say this first part of the stage could be kind of clean, and then we expect to see them once they catch the lap cars get kind of rowdy. But I think at the moment, with these lap cars starting, with some of them starting up here, due to us not doing double foul restarts, we could see it start right away with some of them being mixed in and sprinkled into the field. You see Chase Elliott here getting held up by some DiBenedetto, Brad Keselowski, and there was someone else up there with him that were also getting held up by some lap cars as well. So yeah, well, Kyle Busch, but above them, Kyle Larson, that's who it is. Was also being held up by these guys. It looks like Larson has gotten around, but the 2 and the 21 are going to fight each other a little bit to also get around this 53 here of J.J. Yaley. Casgrala, obviously, with that damage, holding up Kyle Busch. So we can see it kind of start right away. It's not going to be the entire field caught up, but it is going to be a couple of cars dealing with these lap cars, and we can maybe see that turn into a wreck. But I think, like you said, once we wind up ultimately seeing all of these leaders catch those lap cars in 20 or 30 laps, I think then we'll see this race really pick up, and we might not see it go back to single file.
Still see that damage there on the front of the 11 of Denny Hamlin, but it doesn't appear to be really affecting him. I think he's actually holding on better at the start of stage 3 than he did at the start of stage 2 to Eric Almirola. Still over half a second off already, just showing the true pace in that 10 car. But if we've learned anything doing our NR 2003 series this year, is it doesn't matter how good your car is, you can easily get wiped out or have something go wrong, get held up by a lap car at any moment in this race and lose your opportunity to win. So of course we're gonna have to keep an eye on that number 10 of Eric Almirola now, as he's definitely not opening up as much of a gap over Denny Hamlin as he was previously. There, as you see Logano running in 3rd place, William Byron having a strong day in 4th place. Now, I mean, Jay, honestly, William Byron, I would say, is, by the way, Hamlin actually closed in on Almirola that last time by, but William Byron's almost been, I think, a quiet one all year for us. He won at Circuit of the Americas. That's the only place he's won so far, but he's been quietly consistent, and he's done that this round of the playoffs too. He's just consistently gotten good performances and quietly just kind of moved his way into this next round, and now he's in a comfortable spot here in stage 3.
And he's also been consistent in this race as well. Been around pretty much that 4th position all night long, and has put himself in a good position points-wise. He's now tied with Cole Custer, 25 points above the cut line. And once again, barring something massive happening to either him or Cole Custer or any one of these drivers that are above the cut line at the moment, it's looking like we already are going to have our lineup set. And Byron did a good job in this first round. I think he got himself maybe no, never mind. I don't think he won any stages, but he still put himself in a good position to that next round to have some momentum to continue this run and maybe sneak in to the round of 8, and then maybe find himself in the round of 4. Bit of contact there between Bubba Wallace and Ross Chastain, 2 drivers outside the playoffs at the moment trying to fight their way in. Bubba knowing he needs to win this race, he's going to be aggressive. Ross Chastain maybe still hoping for points a little bit. He may not be so aggressive, but it's also Ross Chastain. When is he not aggressive?
Just about turned into an accident right there. Kurt Busch, he's lucky he ran good earlier in the season, and he's lucky, earlier in this round, and he's lucky he's got 2 wins coming into the playoffs, because he has not had a good night. So those playoff points that he built up, as well as just a good first couple of runs, have really played a helping hand tonight for him in Bristol Motor Speedway at a track where we expect Kurt Busch to really do well and compete for a potential race victory. Not quite seeing that from him. Cole Custer has been one of the worst playoff drivers all night long. Daniel Suarez having a really rough night there for Trackhouse, but it looks like, Jay, in the first season for these 2 new teams of Trackhouse and 2311, it looks like they're both going to go out in this first round, but nonetheless, I think still a huge accomplishment for both of those teams in their first ever season, still at least making the playoffs in general.
And not only making it on points, they both made it because they won. And so I think that's a tremendous achievement for both of those teams. I think especially Trackhouse, there was maybe that expectation already there with 23XI. That maybe they thought they could get a win this season to make the playoffs. But for Trackhouse, nobody really knew what to expect out of that team. I'm not sure if they even knew what to expect out of themselves coming into this year. And they went out and got themselves a win, put themselves in the playoffs, and they've kind of struggled in this first round. But they still got themselves in this position to be inside the playoffs. And we're here for 3 races, and they still have a chance to get themselves into the round of 12. There's still anything that can happen in this race. Who knows? Maybe the front 15 are involved in a massive crash, and all of a sudden Daniel Suarez emerges as the leader with 10 to go. So there's still a lot that can happen. That we're not writing them off right now, but as things look, it looks like it's a dire situation for that team. But they still pulled off something that nobody really expected out of them, and I think the same thing for 23XI as well. They both had great first years, and they're definitely going to expand on it as we move into this new generation of car next year.
And of course, Trackhouse has bought everything from Chip Ganassi Racing. They will take over all of those operations next year. It'll be interesting to see what they can do with that. Obviously, they can't use the cars because we're going to a brand new car. But we're seeing Denny Hamlin closing the gap. Now he's closed in about a 10th in the last 4 laps or so, which is surprising to see, Jay. I mean, I guess it's just got to be on the adjustments they made in that car, but we are consistently seeing him close in, and this is the first time, other than when there was lap traffic, that anybody has been able to close in on that number 10 of Eric Almirola tonight. So a bit of a surprise, but at the same time, I guess maybe the 10 made some adjustments, went the wrong way, or do you think it's just the 11 found something there on the pit lane, made the right call, and here they are closing that gap?
I think it could be a little bit of both, because not only are we seeing Hamlin stick with him and maybe close in a little bit, the rest of the top 5 are also sticking with them better than we saw in stage 2. And so all of these guys are closer than they were in stage 2, and really for Denny Hamlin as well. I think that has to put a bit of pressure on Almirola, because before he had a very nice gap going up to these lap cars. He was able to get through 2 of them before Hamlin even caught up to the back of them, and it just really kept the separation there for Almirola to win stage 2. This time around, that separation may not be there, and in the time it takes Almirola to get around whatever first lap car he comes up on, Hamlin could be right on his bumper by the time he goes to make his move. and then Hamlin can follow him right through. So I think this is really going to turn into something interesting here, and Almirola, I think, knows the pressure's on now to get through these lap cars as quickly as he can.
Alex Bowman having another good run tonight, second week in a row that he's been actually putting a top 10 run consistently all race together. So this is the first time this year we've actually seen them go back to back with some consistent strong runs, and it's, if only they could have done this throughout the whole regular season, it would have maybe been completely different for that Hendrick Motorsports team with Alex Bowman behind the wheel, the only Hendrick driver that did not make the playoffs there. As you're seeing, Eric Almirola closing in very quickly on lap traffic. So it's going to be more than 100 laps where they will be dealing with lap traffic. That is if it stays green, of course. Now, like I said, I think with lap traffic going to be such an important factor in this final stage, it really opens that door for potential chaos. So I feel like it is going to be very hard to predict who is going to potentially win this race as Hamlin continues. Actually lost about half a tenth there on that last lap. So the first lap in a little bit, we've seen him lose some time and lost another little bit right there, not quite half a tenth, but Almirola still has some fighting speed in that number 10 car. But Jay, honestly, an incredible performance from Eric Almirola, who's led every single lap here tonight. And honestly, I don't think any of us saw this one coming from that 10 team.
I don't think we saw it coming from anyone, honestly. I think that we expected to see some lead changes tonight. We expected to see some bumpers banging and all that kind of stuff. And I think we might start to see that now with them catching these lap cars and having to deal with them for virtually the rest of this race if it stays green. And I think that we're going to see these guys maybe not be so patient here coming through. We could see some 3 wide moves. Maybe we could see some contact happen. But another thing that I want to point out is if you look there, the guy in 10th place, Matt DiBenedetto, he's in 10th place and he is 6.6 seconds behind. There's some separation between, after Brad Keselowski, there's some more separation between the next drivers behind them. That means that over half of this field, way over half of this field, is almost half a lap down to the leaders at the moment. Look at this line. The leaders are at the back of this line.
Oh.
This is a huge line that the leaders are going to have to deal with, and they're already having to deal with it. Denny Hamlin looking to make a pass on Almirola.
But is that inside going to work? That's the question, because we know the outside can work. So I think Almirola honestly might be in favor here, as long as they don't get side by side in front of him. But that's another good point. There's a lot of guys here in this final stage that are already got their back up to the front bumpers of Eric Almirola here and Denny Hamlin. So it's going to be really interesting to see how hard everybody's going to fight to stay on this lead lap. We've seen 39th place fight for their life to stay on the lead lap here tonight from Bristol Motor Speedway. And for the first time tonight in general, Eric Almirola is at risk of losing the lead. Even when the leaders or second place one was on his back bumper in stage 1, he was never really under pressure, but here he is under pressure now as he stays clear though of Hamlin for the time being, gets down in front of him, so he's safe for now in that number 10 Mobil 1 Ford Mustang. But once these guys start trying to make passes, it's really going to get interesting to see how everyone is going to be able to navigate through this traffic now. As you see, it's a line of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the top 8 all in this little train right here. And Jay mentioned a great point with everyone with these gaps. I mean, of course, DiBenedetto and Keselowski had to deal with lap traffic. That put them quite a ways behind. Kyle Busch is still behind the number 78 of BJ McLeod. He has not been able to get by him, and Kyle is 8 seconds off of the leader, so that's a huge gap right there. And I mean, Jay is not a whole lot Kyle seems to be able to do right now. And I mean, honestly, if you're 12th place on back, you're already at risk of going a lap down here if the, of course, leaders can find a way through this traffic cleanly and consistently.
Yeah, you are up against the wall right now with the leaders there. I mean, they're at the back of the train that you're in right now if you're 13th and below. It's really just fascinating how this happens so quickly, and it also just happened with the lap cars being in the way of these guys, and it really held them up. And I think that the one thing that could benefit maybe DiBenedetto or Brad Keselowski is they're at the, you know, even though they're further behind, once these leaders start getting held up, they may run faster than the leaders, and they may wind up catching up. And at the same time, they're running in decent positions right now, and they're not in the chaos of this group here with the lap cars. So they might, if there's a wreck, they might wind up missing it because they're so far back. So I think that is one benefit of it, maybe. But just at the moment, I'm sure you're not happy if you're Kyle Busch, especially, and then you're not happy if you're Brad Keselowski or Matt DiBenedetto either.
What we're going to do, though, from Bristol right now, oh, there you see a first move from Eric Almirola saying, you know what, it might be time to get a move on it through this lap traffic. Right now, overall, seems pretty calm here as the lap traffic is just starting. So we're going to take one quick break and come back here, which will lead us into pit stops and potential chaos from Bristol Motor Speedway, as we'll be right back. Back from Bristol Motor Speedway, Almirola Hamlin still trying to work their way through lap traffic, and of course the rest of the top 10. They have been making a little bit of progress here and there, but Almirola to the inside of the 17 of Chris Buescher. You're seeing Hamlin make a move to the inside of the 37. Now, while we were on break, Jay and I saw Hamlin do this exact thing, get it inside of the 37. Couldn't pass him, and actually the 37 got back clear and ended up getting in front of the 11 back on the inside. So, Jay, once again, we're seeing so many drivers make the outside work when they need to. It's really a shocker to see nobody jumping up there willingly to try that.
Yeah, I think that we really should see some of these guys try it. William Byron here, I think that could be the good move. It's just unfortunately for him, Hamlin's to the inside of the 37, so he's going to have to make it 3 wide if he's going to get past either of these guys here. But Hamlin, for a moment, or Almirola, sorry, was able to stretch out from Hamlin there for a bit, and then Hamlin's kind of caught him right back up. So I don't think we're going to see Almirola be able to get away from Denny Hamlin here unless he somehow gets through a couple cars really quickly, and then Hamlin keeps struggling like he is.
Now, we do have green flag pit stops coming up very, very shortly. If they can get to lap 220 without pitting, they should be okay to the end, but it would be close if they pit right around anywhere between now and lap 220. So we'll have to wait and see what these guys have in store in terms of their strategies. We're again seeing that 37 put up a good fight there as Denny Hamlin can't quite get past, and he's actually been able to comfortably stay ahead of the 24 of William Byron there in that Exalta Chevrolet Camaro. As I think, honestly, Jay, as well, we see when that 11 gets battling with the 37, the 10's easily able to just pull that gap back out.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin has to keep kind of slowing down off of the corner. He can't arc off of the corner at all, and you'll watch him just slow down right here, lose all of that gap that he had there on the 37 was starting to build up. And that's why, oh, man, Almirola starting to use his bumper a little bit maybe with that 7 car there.
Oh, boy. Oh, there it is.
We go.
Kyle Larson, Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, 3 drivers. A caution comes out. Kyle Busch is hauling the mail. Watch out, everybody. He is okay. He gets to slow down. Wow, I noticed in the background some drivers were taking some weird lines through turns 3 and out of turns 4, so I tried to get there as quick as we could. I got there in perfect time as the first incident of the day. Kyle Larson, I don't think it's going to be too bad for him, but Ryan Blaney and Keselowski, 2 Penske teammates involved in that accident. Of course, we're going to get a look at the replay as soon as these pit stops are taken care of, but for the first time today, we have an incident here, and Keselowski and Blaney both pretty comfortable right now in the playoff situation, so it shouldn't be too drastic for them, as I'm not quite sure what is going on here. It looks like we got some really fascinating strategies going on now, as Hamlin is, I don't know what's going on, to be completely honest at this point, because here comes Hamlin now.
Might have landed on the wrong side, because he pits on this side. I'm not too sure why Eric Almirola went into the pits on that side.
And he's stuck behind. Yes.
Did he run out? Maybe he ran out of fuel and had to go down the pit road on that side, or maybe he already pitted because he was out of fuel? Question mark. Because Denny Hamlin's the leader right now. Gary, hang on. Hamlin is scored as the leader. Something happened to Almirola. He may have ran out of fuel and already pitted when he wasn't supposed to.
Well, this could be race changing for Eric Almirola, who's already locked in on points, so it's not like it's going to be a hit, but of course, they potentially just gave up 5 playoff points if he does not cycle out as the leader. We're going to have to get a look, of course, at what happened with that as we look at the 2, the 12, and the number 5 of Kyle Larson repair their cars. And interesting right here, these are guys that have already just come through to make their pit stops. That's not for position, I don't believe, but Hamlin should come out as, I guess, the leader. So very interesting now is Eric Almirola. Where is he at? Of course, we need to get a view of him. He is right there behind the 00 of Quinn House. So when they come through to cross the line right here, this should give us an indicator of exactly what in the world is going on all of a sudden with an oddly timed caution, which is going to make it, again, close on feel. As it looks like, I think, Denny Hamlin is scored as the leader as they cross the line, and Eric Almirola is going to be scored as of right now. It says 17th place. So while they get this sorted out, let's get a look at the replay there of what caused that caution and see why Eric Almirola as well is in the position that he is in leading up to this restart. Playoff implications here from Bristol Motor Speedway. Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Kevin Harvick all together right here. Larson has a weird exit, pushes up into the 12, goes around Kevin Harvick, who's below the cut line, got into the back of the 12 of Blaney, got some damage, and the 2 of Keselowski collected as well. Jay, not a lot Blaney could have done right there. Larson just pushed up on the exit of the corner until he couldn't push up anymore.
Yeah, and it just forced contact, honestly, and not really needed contact either. But fortunately for Larson, not really going to affect him. Fortunately for Blaney, not going to affect him. Those two are both locked in. But Brad Keselowski, even though he's not locked in, he's 37 points above. So for him, still as well, and that's not going to be DNF type damage either. He'll be able to repair that and stay on track. And then for Harvick, just more time on pit road. But unfortunately for Harvick, I think that kind of puts a nail in the coffin, just because he's going to lose a lot of track position, and we know how vital track position is here tonight.
Now, as the caution was coming out, you see in the background, the crash was just happening in the background. Almirola was coming into the pit lane as the caution was called, and other drivers were too. So, Jay, what it looked like was, this was a scheduled pit stop for Almirola, that just, the caution so happened to come out pretty much at the exact same time he was planning to pit. Now, they were still racing their way around the track to get to the pace car at this point, so a really awkward scenario for Aric Almirola, and honestly, at this point in time, we don't know if this is going to benefit or hurt him in the long run.
Yeah, I think on a normal track, this would have been fine for Almirola, but for a short track like Bristol, where these guys fly around here, I'm not too sure if this is going to put him almost a lap down in front of the leaders, if this is going to put him back in his lead position, or if it's going to put him fully a lap down. I'm not too sure yet. We'll have to see how NASCAR scores this. But this is either really very timely for Almirola and he gets to keep his lead, or it's extremely untimely and he is now either close to a lap down or trapped a lap down.
Now getting ready to go green. So Aric Almirola, it's a really interesting scenario. Denny Hamlin's the leader. You see all the traffic that he's got to work through. This is going to get spicy. Aric Almirola, his third car in line, he is actually going to be scored in the 17th position. So this is going to be as well close, Jay, because Almirola did approximately 75 laps when he came into the pit lane. Well, we just go back under green and there was 75 laps to go. So as well, not only is it just chaotic for Almirola in the situation he is in, but just for everybody all of a sudden. We don't know if these guys can make it on field or not, and it's going to be right on the money for a lot of drivers potentially, which adds a whole new level of potential strategy chaos to this race.
Well, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think we're going to see it stay green all the way through. With the way that we just had these leaders restart on the back of some lap cars already, we're already seeing a little bit of 2-wide chaos here that could turn into 3-wide at any point. We have some damaged cars in the mix as well, with the 12 and the 2 right here, and the 5 as well. I think we might see that caution start breeding more cautions. We might see some more wrecks happening. And I think this is now maybe where we get to that point, or where we were saying that could be a chaotic race. I think this is where we might now hit that chaotic race.
You notice there that the 5 in the background, they're going 3 wide into turns 1. De Benedetto in the mix as well. He's got to be careful. He's not completely safe yet, but it looks like he's going to be okay. But the 5 of Kyle Larson, the 12 of Blaney, the 2 of Keselowski, none of them actually repaired their damage there. They all have caved in right sides. Blaney's back bumper doesn't look that great either. So they chose not to chose not to repair their damage. But Jay, at a track like Bristol, I guess that damage isn't really going to be too much of a deal for them, as you're already seeing the 5 put some pressure on the 24.
And if you don't leave Bristol with a car that looks like that, then you didn't really race Bristol properly. So they're obviously going to keep that car banged up and just go out and probably bang it up even more, trying to get the win here tonight. Because especially with the way this has looked like so far tonight, if you aren't using your bumper, if you aren't tearing your car up and putting some damage on it, then you're not going to win this race and you're not going to make passes. So I think they just are content with leaving that damage on there.
So this weirdly timed caution has set us up for a fascinating finish to this race here from Bristol Motor Speedway. Just under 70 laps to go, and you're seeing the leader now, Denny Hamlin, right on the back of the 8 of Tyler Reddick, who's trying to stay on the lead lap. So Blaney, Kyle Larson, Keselowski, who all just crashed, are 4th, 5th, and 6th at this time of the race. So it's a really interesting situation that we got going on here, and honestly, I'm starting to think that this is not going to benefit Aric Almirola, Jay, due to the fact that not only did he pit earlier, but as well as he is on the very tail end of the lead lap. So we know he can't go as long now as the leader. So I really think that they pretty much just completely destroyed their own race. Not intentionally, of course. It was just a terribly timed caution, but pretty sure they pretty much ruined their race at this point.
Yeah, and he's going to be stuck behind, I think, this 00 and the 78 for quite a while. We saw Kyle Busch, especially with the 78, struggle for a mini amount of laps to get around that 78 car. So I think that Almirola is not really going to be able to make up much ground on these leaders as well. Now, if he's able to get clear, he could maybe run his way back around to get to the back of this lead group here. But then again, he's still going to be stuck behind a whole bunch, or he's going to be in a worse position for track position. And it's just really not going to be good for Eric Almirola with the amount of laps we have left. He's going to fly by here at Bristol. So Eric, he unfortunately is not going to win this race, but they still had a great stage 1 and stage 2 that put himself locked into this next round. So that is something that they have to be proud of, and they have to at least look at and realize that no matter how they finish in this race, they are locked into the round of 12.
It is single file the whole way through right now. As we see a move from William Byron actually there in the number 24, looking up the inside of Joey Logano, getting a little bit impatient, and he says he wants to go Almirola. He saw there in the frame make a move there as well, so he is trying to make his way forwards. I mean, is there a potential way? I mean, I think Almirola still has enough fuel in the car, Jay, to make it to the end of this race. Is there any possibility he gets clear of the 00 and that 78 and finds a way to run his way up to this group again and then try to work his way through, do you think?
I'm not too sure. I think that he can maybe run his way up to the group, but will he be able to make all those passes and get himself back up towards the top 10 or even top 5? I don't think so at all. I don't think there's anywhere near enough time for that. He might be able to get to the back of this pack here and maybe make a few passes before this race ends. But the one thing that would really benefit him right now is if we have a caution. I believe he would then get put back to the tail end of the lead lap, and then he'd be able to make up some positions that way. But as it currently stands, Almirola, I don't think he has a chance of really going anywhere, even if he gets around this 78 car here.
You see him putting a lot of pressure, though, on that 78 of BJ McLeod as they go down into turns 1. We're seeing some more double file racing. They're getting a little bit more aggressive here as we're closing in. And I noticed I asked that question about Almirola, but we're already closing in on the final 50 laps of this race. So even in a perfect case scenario, it's going to be very hard for Eric to do anything at this point now as he's stuck right behind that 78 car of Almirola. So Denny Hamlin leads the way over second place of Joey Logano, who is right on his back bumper. Hamlin, oh, he goes up to the top. This could be an interesting move right there. I don't think he wanted to. It almost looked like he was going to run into the back of the 8 of Almirola, so he just kind of jumped up there out of reaction, but now he's going to be stuck behind the 43, and we're really going to get to see what that 11 has to, play with here from Bristol Motor Speedway. Just over 50 laps to go, and Jay, like I said, a very unique situation that caution has presented us here. Now, as you can see, Hamlin, right off the bat, has been having to deal with lap traffic the whole way through, and I'm sure this is not the position he wants to be in right now, but, once again, we're seeing he's able to hold his own on the outside, but at some point, he's going to have to try and find his way back down to that bottom.
I think if the outside were clear right now, I think this would be a fantastic move for Denny Hamlin. I think he'd be able to find his way around that 8, maybe around the 99, and get back to the bottom and have a couple cars in between him and Joey Logano. But that 43, the 40, the 00 being on the outside prevents, as Almirola's gotten around, but that presents a different challenge for Denny Hamlin. You may not be able to get the type of runs he wants to get, and you may wind up ultimately being stuck behind that 43 and slower than the inside line. So this is a really big gamble, I think, for Hamlin and now Byron as well. But I think it's one these two are willing to play, and I think it could wind up being a positive for them in the long run, because you just get such a good run to the outside, and especially the cars to the inside, they have to check up so much on the exit of the corners with cars that are outside. That outside line is a really big advantage.
There you see Kyle Larson up in 4th place. He wrecked about 20 to 30 laps ago, along with Kozlowski and Blaney, and this is the best Kyle Larson has run all night. So I think we found the trick for him to improve his track position here, is just wreck the car, as Hamlin making that outside work over Logano. This is the biggest gap he's had since the restart now. So working out for him at this moment in time as Suarez is up the inside. That's going to be the first playoff driver tonight, actually, to go 1 lap down. We look at Eric Almirola. Look at the pace he's setting as he is driven away from the pack. Obviously, nothing he can really do now with the final 50 laps of Bristol underway now. So we don't think they're gonna have to make a pit stop at the end of this race, but like I said, it could definitely get very, very close. So as well as Jay, there is that possibility that someone here maybe didn't get enough fuel in their car, and as well, that could create a whole playoff scenario where we could see a guy get eliminated because of a pit stop right at the end of this race as well.
And with where they're running at the moment as well, Joey Logano has put himself up into that 15th position, and that makes Matt DiBenedetto the last one inside the playoffs, and he's racing right beside Ross Chastain right now, who is the one right below him, the first one out. So that's also something to watch for as well. Those two close together. Chastain needs to not make a mistake. DiBenedetto needs to not make a mistake. They're now back in line with each other. But there is a whole lot of stuff to watch here, and with these guys going too wide, all these playoff drivers here together, if one wreck starts, say around Brad Keselowski, William Byron, or Martin Truex Jr., we could see 4 or 5, maybe 6 playoff drivers get caught up with how quickly wrecks happen here at Bristol. So these guys really all have to be careful and to make sure they don't make a mistake. But with so many laps to go and with so many cars around, I think we might see a couple more cautions before this race ends.
Lots of potential for some playoff chaos before this night is over, coming up to the final 40 laps of this race, which flies by here in Bristol. So there's not a lot of racing to go, but plenty of opportunity for chaos. There's see Kyle Larson battling his teammate William Byron. Hamlin's got back down to the inside. Things have calmed down a bit for him. We see some 3 wide here briefly in the background. The 37 of Priest going through the middle. Alex Bowman on the outside. Austin Dillon on the outside, but they're doing a tremendous job right now racing it out. Bowman all the way up to the outside wall, and it looks like they might be able to pull this thing off, but they are still briefly going to go 3 wide here as we have some tremendous racing going on in the middle of this pack, but they do get it settled out there and go back single file there. As you see Elliott, Harvick, Blaney all on the top right now, and Larson did stay clear of William Byron, so he is up into the 3rd position, best he has run all night long. Jay, I mean, Kyle Larson's been kind of quiet throughout the playoffs so far. I mean, I think it's a bit surprising. He locked himself in on points, but he surprisingly hasn't really been in the mix to win a race at all recently, even leading up to the end of the regular season, now into the playoffs.
And I think it's certainly surprising with 2 of these races in this round being Bristol and Darlington, 2 of his best tracks, especially here at Bristol. We've seen him time and time again fight for the lead here. He finished second several times here at Bristol, especially second to Kyle Busch. We've seen a lot of great Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch fights at the end of these Bristol races, so it's a little bit surprising, I think, to not see him battling for the lead tonight. And I think at the moment he probably does have a decent car, even with all that damage on there. So maybe if he didn't have any damage right now, we might see him going and fighting up for the lead. But he's still able to make a great run with that damaged car and potentially find himself with a really good finish to end this first round and head into the round of 12.
Benedetto under attack there from the 42 of Ross Chastain for Chip Ganassi Racing. Chastain's hopes running out pretty quick here in the final 36 to 35 laps of this race. He still needs some help, some luck to make it into the round of 12, but I don't think it is coming. I think the only hope he has is, other than a crash, is the potential of somebody running out of fuel at the end of this race, maybe like a Joey Logano or a Martin Truex Jr. So of course we'll have to keep an eye on what happens with this strategy. Now as Hamlin's got a nice buffer right now, things have kind of calmed down, no one really forcing the issue, but of course when Hamlin's got 2 cars in between him and second place, he is not in a position where he has to force any issue whatsoever. But Logano looks like he wants to get a little bit aggressive there, right on the back bumper of that 8 of Tyler Reddick here as to go down into the corner. So Jay, honestly, I mean, if you're Logano though, you got to look at second place for him. Would be great. We came into this race, he was tied for the last spot and we didn't know if he was going to make it or not. So at the same time, I don't know if I'd be forcing too much if I was Joey Logano.
Yeah, I don't think I would be forcing too much here, because if those 2 start fighting in front of you and then Logano maybe sees a second Rick and take it 3 wide, that could put him in a really bad position there where he might wind up in a wreck, and then maybe he doesn't make the next round because of that. He's in a great position at the moment. In second place, he's going to wind up being in 15th points wise overall after this race ends if he stays where he's at. So he needs to just kind of realize the overall outcome of this race and needs to stay in second place, not really fight these guys too hard, and then also hope that they don't wreck in front of him as well, and hope that he's able to keep it clean for the rest of this race.
At the same time, I'm sure he would love to try and get 5 extra playoff points if possible here as the final 30 laps are underway from Bristol Motor Speedway. Been a fascinating race here. It's been a clean race. We've had one big accident, or well, one accident, 3 cars, and then we had Kaz Grala get turned by Eric Almirola, who has had the best car all night, dominated the race, and then with a poorly timed caution, got himself down in the mid-teens as he tries to rebound to the best of his abilities now as he's running out of time. William Byron now under pressure from that number 2 of Brad Keselowski. So Byron starting to fade just a little bit, but he actually stays clear there from Keselowski from making a move. Harvick getting passed potentially by the number 18 of Kyle Busch. Elliott up inside the top 10. He's been very quiet ever since Darlington. You think that's kind of a thing, Jay, where that 9 team really has come into these 2 races after winning Darlington without a care in the world, as they don't have to fight for anything at this point now? And I mean, it certainly looks like that, as they didn't show up in Richmond with much, and they haven't shown up tonight with much either.
I would certainly hope that's not their mindset for it. They really should have the mindset of, all right, we need to just go for it here, and whatever happens, whatever happens, because they're locked in. They need to try and keep their momentum up, try and get some more playoff points, because they certainly don't have enough to be comfortable in going into these next rounds. Certainly not in the round of 8 if they make it there. So, you know, even though they haven't gotten the results that they probably should have gone for, he's still going to make it out of this round. But I think that they probably should have gone a bit harder and went at the wins here. And if it didn't happen, then it didn't happen. He was locked in no matter what. But I think that's the moment where you have to really try and go for wins no matter what, because you can. You don't have to worry about points.
I wouldn't consider this race completely over yet if Kyle Larson can find a way to get into second over Joey Logano. You never know what he's going to be capable of doing. It's Kyle Larson at Bristol Motor Speedway we're talking about. So, and with a damaged car after crashing earlier, but oh, it could get a little bit spicy right here. Suarez was about to be in the middle of a 3 wide with the number 43 of Eric Jones, but they got that resolved very quickly, and Kyle Larson moves up into second place. I mean, Jay, what does it take to run good? All of a sudden, that 5-car crashes, and he's had the most speed he's had all night.
It's interesting, too, because we're seeing him make passes on the inside, and we've barely been able to see anyone other than Eric Almirola make passes on these lap cars on the inside. It's taken them being on the outside like Hamlin did earlier, and that's what put the separation there. And Denny has only been able to get past one car, the 43, since then, and it's only 2 of them in between the 5 and the 11 at the moment. So if Kyle Larson is able to keep getting past these cars on the inside, we may see him on the tail of Denny Hamlin very soon.
He is going to have to do it very quick.
Sorry, Gary. I just gotta look at the amount of times left. Or the amount of laps left. Yeah, he really does have to go quick. These laps are gonna click off very quick here at Bristol.
So yeah, just less than 20 laps to go, coming to 18 to go. This time by as they cross the line. Hamlin sandwiched right now between Reddick and Quinn Houff. And if I'm Kyle Larson, I'm hoping Hamlin doesn't get clear of that 00, because there's a bit of a space right there, and it's not a big space between the 00 and the 41, but I think it would be enough to put Hamlin safe to win this race without any issues. So Kyle Larson really needs to get on a move with it. If he can find a way past that 43, he's got to take it. Maybe he could experiment like he's doing right there and even try jumping up to the top, building up some momentum. But as well, we still don't know if these guys are going to make it to the end of this race, and we're about to find out probably within the next 10 or so laps, because like we said, Eric Almirola, he went approximately 75 laps when he pitted as that caution came out, and we had about a 75 lap run to the end of this race. So I mean, Jay, do you think we are going to potentially see someone maybe run out of fuel, or even just safely bring it into the pit lane to make sure they can make it?
I'm not too sure if we're going to see anyone run out of fuel, because to be honest, even though they only ran, or Eric Almirola only ran 75 that first time, we don't know if he was out of fuel when he decided to pit there, and these guys have been running behind lap cars for a while, so they could have been running slower that way, which in turn saves fuel. So I think that it's possible they're able to make it to the end from here. We know from testing they're able to do about 80 laps, so I think they'll be able to easily make it to the end here. But you never know. The things can happen. They maybe didn't get the car all the way full. Maybe they aren't running like I thought they were, and we're really running hard behind these lap cars and used up a lot of fuel. So we'll find out here pretty soon because of how fast these laps click off. But I think we'll see everybody make it to the end.
Not looking good for Kyle Larson if he wants to try and win this race, as he's not been able to make progress since he's gotten up to second place past Joey Logano. The one advantage he might have is we got some double file racing going on right here in front of the leader of Denny Hamlin, so we'll have to see if anything comes out of that now, as it's 11 laps to go from Bristol. Hamlin's actually going to take a potential risk here, jump up to the outside, but he will easily be back clear of that 8 car of Tyler Reddick into the corner. Larson, I mean, oh, look at this. Hamlin to the inside of Quinn Houff, an opportunity right there to kind of catch the Starcom driver off guard now, as Larson's just still cannot quite do anything with that 43 of Eric Jones. And now Hamlin's put 3 cars in between, but now there's the move from Kyle Larson. Maybe a little bit too late there, Jay, from that 5.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit too late. The 00 certainly helped that happen as well. I'm not sure that Larson would have gotten by him if it wasn't for that 00 slowing him up. And now Larson has got to find a way to get around that 00 who Hamlin struggled behind for several laps. So I think it is too little, too late. We'll see Larson probably get held behind that 0-0, and Hamlin now fighting with Cole Custer to put another playoff driver a lap down. But like we mentioned earlier in the race, luckily for Custer, he had that great run at Darlington. He's going to make this next round, barring again a very late caution here, a late crash. But this is something that I did not expect out of Denny Hamlin. I did not expect him to be able to make his way through these lap cars like he has. He still hasn't passed a ton of them, but he's passed more than anybody else has in this race, and he's done a really great job of it. I think that team got that car right towards the end of this race, and it was the right time for Hamlin. He put some cars in between him and Larson, and I think if he had not gone to that outside early in this run, I think he would be right there fighting with Kyle Larson, and Larson might have been able to do something to Hamlin.
Hamlin's definitely passed the drivers he's needed to pass. Now, as we come through to 5 laps to go from Bristol, at this point, if a caution comes out, that likely means the end of this race. So I'm sure Hamlin would not mind a caution coming out at this point here, as now he has a comfortable gap over Kyle Larson. So at this point, it's just about making it on field, which it looks like they are going to do. Just 4 laps remain. Hamlin now to the inside again of that number 41 of Cole Custer. Got to be a heartbreaking feeling for Eric Almirola. Jay, of course, I mean, they had an incredibly fast car. It looked like Hamlin was catching on to them towards the middle part of that 3rd stage, but nonetheless a bit heartbreaking day, but at the same time, they still showed up and ran really well tonight in Bristol.
And they did what they needed to do. They ran extremely well in stage 1 and 2 and got themselves locked in again. So what happened here in this 3rd stage didn't necessarily matter. And so Eric Almirola is going to be into the round of 12. He did a great job tonight at Bristol. As we do see Quinn Hoff pitting here.
Oh,
we see a
boy.
couple drivers pitting. Maybe some of these guys can't make it. I might have those guys also. I think
Final lap right here
as well. So I think that Eric Almirola might be in danger here of not making it. Actually, I think you might have been right this whole time.
White flag is in the air, though, so it's looking like it's going to be okay for Denny Hamlin, who leads the way down the back straightaway into turns 3 and 4 for the final time. Out of turns 4, Denny Hamlin capitalizes on Almirola's mistake and wins in Bristol for the final race of the round of 16. The same 4 drivers that were on the outside looking in coming into tonight are the same 4 drivers that end up eliminated from the round of 16, as Denny Hamlin, what a dominant final run, I guess you could say it was, for that number 11 car here in Bristol Motor Speedway, putting his car in position wherever it needed to be in the proper places at the right times, and he pulls off the victory over Kyle Larson. So Jay, overall, I mean, a great showing from Denny Hamlin, who of course was trying to battle Kyle Larson for the regular season championship. Came up a bit short. I think it was 34th or something in the regular season standings, but right now looking like to be one of the strongest drivers in the playoffs.
Yeah, he had a very good run tonight, and I think this race kind of set up for me to show that Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson are going to be here for this playoffs, and they are going to be competitive. And I think that we might see those two duke it out all the way to the final race, and certainly in the final 4 as well. Those two have been the strongest of the season. I think they're both people that you and I mentioned as this playoff started to look out for, and drivers that we could see competing for this championship. So they finished 1-2 tonight. Eric Almirola certainly had a great car as well. Probably would have been in the fight for this win. Maybe still would have won this race if it wasn't for that mistake from his team and for that pit stop. But still a great race by them. And again, they locked themselves into the playoffs or in the next round by doing so. And so, I think that we got a lot less chaotic race than either you or I expected tonight. I thought we might have seen a lot of cars go a lap down. We might have seen a lot of crashes, and we might have seen a lot of playoff drama. And we didn't really get that. We had the one little small crash, and that led to Kyle Larson being in his fastest moment of the night, and he was able to go up to 2nd place, and probably could have challenged Denny Hamlin if it wasn't for those cars in between them. So it was a extremely clean race, and unfortunately for Ross Chastain, he gained points, just not as many as he was looking for. He gained 1 point on Matt DiBenedetto, but he still misses out on the round of 12. And like we mentioned earlier as well, with Daniel Suarez and Bubba Wallace, great first seasons with their new teams, but unfortunately they are also out of the round or out of the playoffs as well. And then Kevin Harvick, another guy who struggled all season long after getting those wins, out of this playoffs as well.
Strong top 10 showing, at least for Kevin Harvick tonight from Bristol Motor Speedway. If you guys enjoyed, as always, you know what to do. We'd like to thank you all for taking the time of your day to watch this episode. I'll show the playoff grid at the end of the episode for what the round of 12 looks like. We already know same 4 drivers that came in on the outside looking in tonight are the same 4 eliminated. We will have the updated playoff grid of what it looks like going into the round of 12 at the end of this video. What does the round of 12 look like? We got Las Vegas coming up, which earlier this year was quite the hectic race where we saw Kevin Harvick actually dominate that race and then got taken out by Quinn Helf in the final stage by a lapped car he was. And then we have, of course, Talladega and the Charlotte Roval. So, Jay, before we end it, I think, honestly, this round of 12 probably is going to potentially be the craziest round of the playoffs for us.
I think it will be the most chaotic round. I agree with you there. I think that this first round, going into it at least, I thought this might have been the second most chaotic, and it really wasn't. We had some very clean races in this first round. Well, actually, Darlington was a bit chaotic, but uh, Vegas, Talladega, and the Roval, we don't know what to expect from the Roval, but we know what to expect, I think, from Vegas and Talladega. Both of those races were chaotic the first time around. I think they'll be chaotic again. And Oops. And I think we will see this time around. I think we'll see the grid be more close together, and I think we will see maybe somebody get eliminated who we were not expecting, just because we have Vegas there, who's acts like a play track with NR, and then Talladega, which is a play track, and it usually results in somebody finishing and getting crashed out. And finishing very bad. So I think that this round could prove to have somebody who we think that could make maybe the final 8 or the round of 4. We might see them get out just because they wind up in a couple of crashes.
I think if we had to predict one round where we say maybe a regular season champion or just a driver that's run well in general up in the standings like Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, or Denny Hamlin, if I had to predict any round that I think would be realistically they could go out in, it would be this round of 12. So we'll have to wait and see what happens now. Like I said, if you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. We will be back next week for Las Vegas Motor Speedway to kick off the round of 12. Thank you all for taking the time of your day to watch, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.